It was once mostly asked, if retrograde time travel is conceivable, then where are the time travelers? Hello everyone, welcome back to Zeey. If you are new to the channel, hit that subscription button and ring the bell to receive our daily videos. After all, if we don't see obvious, solid evidence of not only human time travelers visiting us from the future, which is significant enough, but also alien time travelers from across the cosmos, it's a big deal. After all, if you can travel backwards in time, you can definitely travel through space as well. You might certainly argue that time travelers, particularly those of earthly origin, would do everything they could to avoid accidentally sparking off paradoxes that would obliterate their very existence Back to the Future style. The trouble is that it actually generates a different one. It's the inability to influence the past in a way that benefits the future. Prediction becomes difficult at this point because there are too many variables, as represented in science fiction films such as Interstellar, Star Trek Voyager's Year of Hell 2-part episode, and many more. In some ways, it's similar to the butterfly effect. As a time traveler, you won't know the implications of interfering with the past causality until you experience the eventual outcome in your own timeline. Predicting all the results of your actions would be incredibly difficult. Even tampering with the trajectory or circumstances of a single subatomic particle can result in a different outcome than planned. To be honest, this has perplexed physics, because if backwards time travel is possible, the contradictions pile up into a gigantic mound that cannot possibly be how the universe works. Cause and effect appears to be an immutable fact. What happened, happened, that's all there is to it, or so the convenient way of putting it is. However, if you could travel backwards in time, there is a clear realism here. And yet again, where have the time travelers gone? If Earth and human civilization were to visit us in the future, they should do so in the most harmless way possible to prevent paradoxes, and there should be no evidence of them left at all, or they'd have been discovered. However, despite several reports, there is yet to be reliable evidence of a time traveler visiting us. This leads to some unpleasant scenarios, but before we get there, perhaps it's just that backwards time travel is impossible, which does appear to be the case based on our current knowledge of physics, but there are loopholes that open up the possibility that it may not be prohibited. Leaving aside the past, we do know that time travel into the future is feasible, which is perfectly consistent with Einstein's theory of relativity. More on that later. But in very specific circumstances, backward time travel may be possible, and there are some hypothetical ways it could be done in physics. Though to be fair, they are all impossibly large undertakings, such as building a gigantic rotating cylinder that spans half the universe and can only take you back to the moment of the cylinder's creation, or ideas about the extremely distorted environment bending time just above the event horizon of a black hole. So there are potential ways to travel back in time, but it may turn out that there are unexpected roadblocks, and the timeline is the chronology, and that's it. However, it is also possible that time-traveling aliens simply do not visit Earth. We're insignificant to their current goals, and they don't care about us or come here, therefore it's no surprise we never see them. Alternatively, we are so critical to the galaxy's future that this world is off-limits, a no-paradox zone. However, lurking in that is the possibility that the status quo will change someday, and something we do, some unknown technology we develop, or even just some ideology or trend results in a flood of time-traveling aliens from the future suddenly appearing and stopping us, or otherwise taking an interest in our development in order to sculpt the galactic or intergalactic future to their ends. To put it another way, we don't matter unless we do, and it is at this point that we lose control of our destiny. But there's also the chance that aliens who make it past the great filters don't want to time travel or only do it internally, and that humans don't see time travelers because there aren't enough humans remaining in the future to develop retrograde time travel. Maybe we're just a passing fad, doomed to perish sooner rather than later, but that doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. In this situation, we are a little blip in the history of most other civilizations, if they even know about us at all, because we died extinct before we became fascinating enough to change the chronology and affect anyone else in the galaxy other than ourselves. However, longevity is critical in this situation, because if you only exist as a technological civilization for 100 or so years in a galaxy that lives on time frames of many billions of years, you become a footnote rather than anything significant in the great encyclopedia of the universe. We are a small paragraph, whereas more advanced civilizations may occupy hundreds of pages, as in the case of my Wikipedia article against William Shatner's. This opens up a strange option, and it stems from the one sort of time travel that we are aware of. We can travel into the future every second of our lives, but Einstein's theory allows us to increase the rate at which we move through time merely by accelerating to relativistic speeds. This is the twin paradox, in which one identical twin boards a rocket and travels near the speed of light for a while before returning to Earth to discover that their identical twin has aged decades relative to the traveler and has in reality returned to Earth's future. However, in this form, the traveler departs, returns, and discovers that the human species and civilization have become extinct and that the world has become inhospitable. Instead of meeting their double in the future, this space traveler discovers desolation and the end of humanity. This has also been explored in science fiction, but what would you do? If Earth's future was uncertain when you left, the only reason you'd return is to observe what transpired. That is true for the sake of inquiry, but it is also disappointing. There would be no space elevators, no solutions to human problems, no medicines for all diseases, and no humans living in space. You'd just find the ruins of extermination. We'd be fossils like the dinosaurs at that point. Imagine all of you and everyone being confined to a geologic fossil record that, if no aliens ever located, would melt when the sun gets too hot. If we become extinct in the coming hundreds or millennia, all traces of us will be destroyed, most likely by the Earth, but most surely by the death of the sun when everything reverts to molten state. They may never know we existed if the future consists of a surge of sentient life as the cosmos ages. Unless, of course, in the future, alien species capable of backwards time travel explore the past in order to study it and solve their own Fermi paradox. If you can't find anyone else in the vast expanse of space, perhaps seeking the vast expanse of time is a better alternative. And this brings up the question once more. What happened to the time travelers? We know that this galaxy is billions of years old and capable of producing planets and civilizations at least billions of years before Earth originated. This appears to be the case for many galaxies, providing many millions or billions of chances for exoplanets to spawn technological civilizations, all of which could have developed backwards time travel or traveled forward in time to visit us, in the rather odd possibility of being visited by an alien time traveler from the past, which also does not appear to have ever happened but is fully consistent with relativity. In your frame of reference, we departed our home world 100,000 years ago at relativistic speed, yet in ours, it was only yesterday. However, one of the most perplexing aspects of the Fermi paradox is that we do not see any alien civilizations, whether from the future, the past, or the present. That may just be because space travel is difficult and resource-intensive, and backward time travel is impossible, and no one ever tries any of these things. But there are other alternatives, one of which is quite eerie. On this subject, the solution to the Fermi paradox is that all civilizations live in the past or the future, and that this particular time period of the universe is good for biology but not the optimal time period to exist in. Aliens may go to the future to a time when the universe is crowded with alien civilizations, having evolved other intelligences over many billions of years. Or they may travel back in time for a benefit, such as the universal habitable zone, where the entire universe was warm enough to support liquid water. However, it can be taken a step farther. If you have complete control over time and space, say as a 6-billion-year-old society, the cosmos is effectively your oyster. You can explore the entire observable world and beyond without being concerned about the passage of time. You literally have all the time in the universe at your disposal, so long as you don't travel back to the Big Bang and incinerate yourself. This proposes a situation in which the first civilization to do this becomes the permanent master of the universe, capable of short-circuiting any competing civilizations at any time to perpetuate their hegemony. We should hope that we are the first civilization in this circumstance. This all-powerful primordial civilization may wish to keep its presence hidden from all, resulting in a kind of universal zoo hypothesis in which you're not really talking about a civilization that dominates a galaxy as a zookeeper, but a society that rules the universe as such by manipulating time. They may not bother with civilizations that have not advanced technologically enough to compete, such as our own currently primitive planet, but they do the moment someone gets a sufficient awareness of time to begin fooling around. It may be necessary to intervene in this manner to prevent any civilizations from producing paradoxes or traveling so far back in time as to disrupt the evolution of the early cosmos. To avoid paradoxes, they may fight those civilizations in the present, or, worse, they may go back in time and simply erase those civilizations. They travel back in time to sterilize their planets during their microbiological phases, preventing all life on their home world from forming. The strength of such a society is unfathomable, and it begins to open up the notorious hypothesized first SETI radio communication, but be careful or they'll hear you. Thankfully, we have no evidence of this ever occurring, but I will leave you with this final idea. Everything we've studied about physical rules tells us that you can't travel back in time, you can only experience the consequence of it through causality. If it is true for everyone in the universe, then we are all faced with a dilemma. Why is this the case, and why is it that the cosmos itself forbids us from doing so? Who made that rule? It shouldn't matter whether we mess up the timeline if it's a mindless procedure. However, the universe simply does not permit us to tamper with the past. I'll leave it to you to figure out why. Alright everyone, here's where the video ends. Thank you for your time. Is there anything you'd like to say? Tell us in the comments and subscribe to our channel for regular, in-depth investigations of the fascinating, strange, and mysterious parts of our magnificent universe.